and to bring you your fix of everything related to the Montreal Canadiens. Two men who could seriously use an intervention. Your source of Habs talk, right from the rock. Right from the rock.
Hello, Canada, hockey fans, United States and Newfoundland.
Hockey Junkie and GK.
Okay, guys, put your socks on. Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 16 of the Fix Podcast. My name is Matt, also known as Hockey Junkie, and joining me today is a young man who likes to go by the name of Garry. Garrylicious. Garry, what's going on? What'd you have for supper, man? Anything good?
Roast chicken, man. Gotta love it. Anytime the mother-in-law cooks, it's a good meal.
Sounds like a good time. Roast chicken. We had salmon.
Very nice.
Salmon? Oh, yeah. God, I had to cancel on my payments for the next 3 months just to get a couple pieces of salmon.
I was up Sobeys the other day. Lobsters were $24 a pound.
It's crazy, ain't it, man?
That's crazy. It'll go down now that the season's open now, though.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, well, I hope so, man. My gosh. Everything's gone bananas.
Everything's gone crazy. You know who's not gone crazy? Leafs fans.
Leafs fans?
They just disappeared.
There, yeah. Crickets.
Crickets. They
It's
were
a beautiful
everywhere.
time of year.
Now they're like T-Rex, man. They're extinct.
So good. Sheldon Keefe's gone now.
Yeah, I know.
Mitch Marner is on, like, everybody's after him again. That didn't take long.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody turns on him right away. He's
the whipping boy.
He is, yeah.
I thought Keefe should have been gone last season. We talked about that before. Like, I thought, new management. Yeah, I mean, what did you get? One extra win outside the first round. I didn't think that was good enough reason to keep him around. I thought they should have gave him the boot then. Got a fresh start this year, and then if it doesn't work, you can look at making make sweeping roster changes. Now it's like, well, we just changed our coach. Do we also change the top four, the big four? Or do we? Maybe give them run it back one more time and see if the new voice in the room makes a difference. So, I like chaos in Leafland. So it's glorious.
It's beautiful, ain't it? Like, it's a Habs fan's delight, man, watching this team just explode every single if the
Habs can't be good, the Leafs being disappointing is the second best thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like Sheldon Keefe's almost got a job already, man. There's rumblings about him possibly going to New Jersey. I don't know if you heard that. I figured he was going to be at the crab plant.
Or in Pittsburgh. Following Dumba around.
Yeah. Yeah,
both
man.
those guys were only they were only single for about a day, man, and then someone else snapped them up, and that says a lot to maybe they're not the problem.
Like Garry in high school.
I wasn't single for long.
Oh man, so we'll get back to the playoffs later, but I kind of wanted to dive right into this draft lottery stuff first, man. It's over with. We finally know where we stand. The Habs are picking 5th overall. I'm kind of disappointed in you, first and foremost. All right, you promised me a draft lottery win this season. You were right on pretty much everything else, and then you waited right until the very end before you started going wrong all of a sudden. What happened?
Twice. I got that one wrong. Then I bet that the Leafs were going to go out in 5, was it? And then they end up pushing it to 7. I mean, I lost my touch at the wrong time, I could bet on a Josh Anderson scoring a goal and nail it, but this is beyond my control.
Unbelievable, man.
I know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
but this one hurts the most, the draft lottery.
It does. Absolutely. And I know I had a lot of disappointed people out there. I think if I had got that one right, my legend just would have grown. It would have been,
your statue would have already been outside the Bell Center.
It would have been erected, But like I said, I mean, it's nice for a change to disappoint some men. My whole life I've been disappointing women, so sorry, guys.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, me and Deeks did a live show for the draft lottery. I don't know if any of you guys out there saw that or not, but it was a good laugh being on there with Deeks and kind of running down some stuff and having our live reaction out there. And I think, at the end of the day, the most likely place we were going to pick in the draft was 6. when all the odds were out. So the fact that we didn't move down, I guess, is a win. It was a bit anticlimactic, obviously. Same as the year when Montreal won the draft, only for it worked out good for us. Like, there was no movement at all. No one moved up, no one moved down. Everyone just kind of stayed status quo, which, like I said, worked out good for the Montreal Canadiens. It was kind of, the third best outcome that could have happened at the draft was us picking at fifth. We could have moved up to 1, we could have moved up to 2. I think there was like a 0.4% chance we could have picked at 3. So at the end of the day, I'll take this. The options there at 5 are, there's still lots of options, lots of good options. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Man, it was pretty boring though, watching the names tick and seeing no movement at all. Like, I don't know, I'm the kind of guy that likes some chaos once in a while, you know what I mean? I would have liked to have seen one team just kick another team right in the nuts to move ahead, but unfortunately that didn't happen. I mean, of course, it could have always been worse. Like you said, the Habs could have fell back to 7th. Ottawa could have won. That would have been a massive kick in the stones, but we didn't get to witness that at least.
Thank God. Chicago could have won again, which would have really sucked.
Oh, man. Chicago. Yeah. I can't imagine. But, I mean, even the fact that they got second, pisses me right off. Because if they draft... Who do you think Chicago's taking? That's a good question.
At 2?
Yeah.
I mean, the draft starts at 2, right? The same thing last year. It was kind of, Bedard was going 1, and then the draft started at 2. For me, it could go either way. I mean, Chicago could easily take a defenseman, and there's a couple of really grade A defensemen. This draft is full of really good defensemen. So they could take Lyubushkin, they could take, they could take one of the other big guys, and there's guys who are listed at 5 and 6 on some lists that some scouts are really high on and could move up even into the top 5 and surprise people. So I mean, it's going to be one of those drafts. But for a Habs fan perspective, obviously we hope they take a defenseman because that pushes another forward down the line. So to me, it's going to be either probably Lyubushkin or Demidov, probably.
Yeah, same here. I'm thinking Demidov or Lev Shanov or whatever his name is. But
Lev, what do I call him? Lyubushkin. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
It's all the same. It's all the same.
You know what I mean.
But worst case scenario, though, in my opinion, is if Demidov goes 2nd or 3rd, and Caden Lindstrom goes immediately after. That would suck because now all of a sudden you got a massive wrench thrown. These are the consensus 2 guys, or at least that's the way it seems, right? Yeah, you got your Grant McKegg saying Bickett, Seneca, and stuff, but of course Tij Ginla, his name keeps popping up, but I don't know, man. I'm really hoping that it's either going to be Lindstrom or Demidov. It almost feels like it's going to be Caden Lindstrom at this point, to me anyway, but at the same time, I'm not getting my hopes up, and I'm not going to try and get too invested either, like I did last year. You know what I mean? Last year, man, I was deeply invested in the Matvei Michkov.
Well, I think if you can get a defenseman to go in, or 2 defensemen to go in the top 4, which is what Montreal really needs to happen, right? We need someone to take Lefshinov. We need someone to take either, Burham or Perek or Dickerson or Siliev or someone like that. And then you're guaranteed to get a good forward at 5. And it's an easy decision. And to me, if Lindstrom or Demidov is there at 5, then it's easy. You just take one of those guys and it's over with. There's no stress. There's no worries. I don't think we're talking about, Senek, if one of those guys are there. If both of those guys are gone when it comes to 5th pick, that's when it becomes a question mark. Because then you're looking at it and you're saying, is it close enough? Or is the next best forward close enough to being the best player available that you can kind of ignore a very talented defenseman is sitting right there? Because there are some, like I said, this draft, I was watching a draft video by Grant McKegg and, oh my God, Shane. Oh, what's Shane's last name? I forget.
Anyway.
Yes, thank you. No.
Come on, I think.
Come on, yeah, there you go. And the sick draft podcast, and they were saying this could be one of the better defensive drafts in the last decade for sure. So I mean, there's going to be a really good defenseman there. The question then is for Montreal is that do you say, all right, no, we're still going to take the next best four, but there'd be a Ginla or Catton or Yzerman or, like I say, a guy like
Seneca.
I
think that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they're still going to take it forward. And, 10 years from now, we might look back and say, geez, the Habs passed on a really good defenseman. But with the defenseman they got in their system already, I mean, we're already looking this summer to see what we're going to do with all the defensemen we have. So, I think they're probably going to take a swing. And if those two guys are gone in Demidov and Lindstrom, it really could go either direction. It could be a Ginla. It could be Catton, although I think that feels less likely. And I mean, if Grant McKegg is talking about this kid, then he's probably on the Habs' radar. So, I mean, that's just the reality of it. Yeah, I mean, he's there. If he's talking about him and he's so high on him right now, then this is definitely his name is getting tossed around it there somewhere. So we need to prepare ourselves for that.
He likes him, man. You know what? I respect that. Yeah. But my problem really is that I know nothing about him. You know what I mean? I haven't heard a whole lot about him. Now, since Grant McKegg's brought him to pretty much everybody's attention, well, I'll say your average Habs fan's attention.
Yes.
I've been looking up a little bit. I noticed he took like some kind of massive growth spurt lately, but there's still some concerns. I see like he still weighs like a sheet of loose leaf. He's not very heavy on those skates yet. He's got a lot of filling into his body. Yeah, you know what I mean? He's like 165 pounds or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I read.
Yeah. When you look at his highlights, I mean, the thing is that when you look at his highlights, it's always the same handful of highlights. You know what I mean? It's not like it goes on and on. But there are a couple where he looks fantastic. And at the end of the day, maybe he is that player. He had an excellent second half to his season in OHL. He had kind of a mediocre start. And a lot of people kind of attributed that to him trying to get used to playing in his bigger body. Because like I said, I think he finished last season at like 5'11" and then came into this season at like 6'3". So, I mean, that's a lot
Holy
at that
shit.
age to kind of, yeah, like he grew quite a lot. So, I mean, there's a big transition there, and he's big. He's got hands. He can skate. It's just a matter of, is it Jesperi Kotkaniemi all over again? Did he kind of have that spurt, that really growth, and then plateau, and we don't see it continue? Because I mean, I think that's what a lot of people look for in their draft years. Is this kid progressing? Is he doesn't necessarily have to be the best, but is he better than he was, quite a bit better than he was the year before? And with this kid, it's kind of yes and no is the answer. The second half of the season, he was far better than he had been the season before. But in the first part of the season, he didn't really show that much progression. So what's real with this kid, right? So it's going to be tough, and I think he'll be a swing at 5. But you never know. You never know what's going on with the Montreal Canadiens brain trust.
And it almost seems like there could potentially be quite a few swings at 5. Like outside of Caden Lindstrom and Ivan Demidov, I don't know if you noticed, but looking at a lot of these mock drafts and draft rankings and stuff, it feels like everybody else is kind of all over the place, aside from a couple of defensemen as well. But yeah, I mean, I've seen some rankings where Ginla is not even in the top 10, and same with Catton, Yzerman. You know what I mean? It's kind of mix and match all over the place at that point.
Those guys go up and down. I will say this though, in quite a bit of those drafts, there's not a lot of agreement on who goes, say, at 2, 3, 4, and 5. But it seems consistent that in most of the mock drafts I've seen, that either Lindstrom or Demidov still are around at 5, because two defensemen end up sneaking up into that top 5. So whether, it's sometimes Demidov goes 2, but then Lechnov and Siliev go, and then you have Lindstrom sticking around at 5 for the Montreal Canadiens to take. Or sometimes you got Zev Burum's going up and he's getting picked, or Zane Parekh is getting picked because, right-hand defensemen who are, play with the kind of skill he plays with are not very common. So, I mean, there's a bunch of options there. The other name that kind of Grant McKegg has thrown out there and has been kind of mentioned, but I think Craig Button's pretty high on this guy too, is Helenius. Costa Helenius is another name, kind of another big, kind of rangy center whose name kind of keeps popping up. So, it's just, there's so many possibilities there at 5. It's really interesting. let's take this as kind of like a little bit of an exercise here. So we'll put it up to you. Obviously, Celebrini goes 1, and Demidov and Lindstrom are also off the board when it comes to Montreal at 5. Who's Hockey Junkie taking? Who's your gut tell you that, or not even what they'll do? What would you do?
Okay, so pitchforks are probably coming at me, okay? Because at this point, they're probably picking a defenseman for all I know, but there's something about this Iginla kid, man. I don't know. Calling me crazy because I grew up watching a lot of Jerome Iginla and stuff. I mean, Jerome Iginla had a fantastic career, man. That guy could do it all. He could scrap, he could hit, he could score goals. He was a great leader. Whatever you needed him to do, he was right there to do it. And I mean, if I'm a Habs scout right now, I'm looking at that kid big time. Like, I'm finding out everything about him. Whether he wipes back to front to back. I want to know everything about him, you know what I mean? And it would be hard to pass up on a guy like that. I mean, we've seen it with, the Tkachuks came from a hockey family, obviously. And I know it doesn't always go that way, but it would suck to see, I don't know, the Canadiens pick a defenseman at 5 when they already have, like, a whole freezer full of defensemen, and then all of a sudden somebody takes Iginla at 6, and you just watch him go on to have like some kind of a crazy career, or even a start like what Brady Tkachuk's having in Ottawa right now, and you got that thing all over again, in a sense.
It's funny because when you were speaking about Iginla, that was the exact kind of moment that came to my mind. Is that leading up to the draft, we took Kotkaniemi. Tkachuk was surging because he come off I think U18s that year, and before that his stock was kind of it was a bit on and off. He wasn't a huge name. Kotkaniemi's name was there. Philip Zadina's name was the other big one around 3-4. And Tkachuk was he was a bit of an afterthought. I know now looking back, a lot of people say, "Oh, I wish we had taken this guy," and who wouldn't? But at the time, people rooting for Tkachuk to go were a lot less plentiful than they kind of make themselves out to be at the moment. But I feel like the same type of profile, the gritty kind of guy who can kind of do it all, does have a good set of hands, and has showed that he can score. He's got all kinds of pedigree, and then you got some guys there in around that same draft pick that people say, well, maybe this guy's got maybe potentially more upside, but so did Philip Zadina, and you couldn't tell you where Philip Zadina is playing right now. So I mean, to me, I think that if those two guys are off the board, not only is Iginla the easiest pick, I think you get instant buy-in from the fan base. I don't think there's going to be many people pushing back if you get up there and you draft this kid, because I think he's super likable already. He's got talent. He does everything that Montreal wants people to do, without maybe having the potential to put up 40 goals. I think that's not in him, but he does a lot of things that we need. I think he's almost guaranteed to be a top 6 player for the Montreal Canadiens if they do draft him. So I hate to disagree with you because it kind of makes it boring, but that's who I had on my mind as well. If those other two are gone, to take Iginla at 5. Yeah, I mean,
and look at the surge from him too, right? Like at the start of the season, like you didn't hear a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like he was on the radar, but kind of later, and then all of a sudden, look at the season that he just had, man. Like he put up an insane season. He was awesome in the playoffs. He just took right off, and it makes you wonder. It almost makes you wonder, like, how far can he take it? How far is he going to go? You know what I mean? He's running with it right now.
Absolutely. And that's why when we were talking about earlier, like, it's that, that growth from your, 2 years before your draft to your draft year, and what does that project like? Do you plateau in your draft year, or do your numbers look the same as the year before, or do you continue to grow and continue to dominate and continue to show improvement? And I mean, compared to almost everyone else around there at 5, he's probably shown the most improvement over from season to season. And I mean, he had a good U18s as well. He scored a big goal or two, maybe in the game against the Americans, the championship game there. So I agree. I think he's a good choice. Now, on the other side of this, who do you think the Montreal Canadiens could take that would be the most frustrating for this fan base?
Frustrating? I think it's more like insert defenseman's name here. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pushback if they pick a defenseman, but at the same time, like, it all depends on who's off the table already. Like, imagine if Caden Lindstrom is still available, or Demidov is still available. I mean, we just watched him pass on Michkov last year, but imagine if one of these guys is available and the Canadiens line up and pick, I don't know, Silyev or someone who's, could be outstanding. I spoke about him earlier in the season, and there was comparisons with Victor Hedman at one point. I don't see that, but it would be nuts if they picked a defenseman and there was still some big names on the table. I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, and we're kind of assuming, like, and we did this last year and we really shouldn't have, but like, you get to 5 and Demidov or Lindstrom are there and they go ahead and take a defenseman, the fan base is going to implode. But if you get to 5 and neither one of those guys are there and they take a defenseman, the fan base is still going to be upset about it, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as if one of those guys are there. No,
probably not. And a lot of it depends on what even happens leading up to the draft too. I mean, if you see them move a couple of defensemen like on the way, then I mean, maybe you can start thinking like, well, maybe they're seeing a defenseman that they like and they're already starting to shop some of their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you move to your young defenseman for a legitimate top 6 offensive piece and then drafted a defenseman, probably especially a right-handed defenseman. So like, say if Levshinov happens to fall and you just dealt Reinbacher and somebody else, then maybe, but there's a lot of maybes going into play here now.
That would be crazy though.
That would be crazy. Yeah. I mean, it would be.
Yeah, it would be, man.
Speaking of moves coming up to the trade, they're not trading up to the draft. A lot of Arber Xhekaj talk going around. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. No.
Hell no.
No. I've been watching so much playoff hockey, man, over the last few weeks, and when the Habs get to that stage, they're going to need Xhekaj. I mean, look at the teams right now. Look at the battles that are going on. There's rats everywhere. You look at Boston and Florida right now. These guys are the ones that win you the series, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I just don't think it's going to be a good idea to move a guy like Xhekaj when you're going to be needing him down the road. He's different.
He is different. We talked about that before. He brings something to the game that no one else in Montreal's lineup does. And I find teams play Montreal differently when Xhekaj's in the lineup, which speaks a lot, And I mean, I don't think either one of us are sitting here saying that Xhekaj is untouchable. Like you see on Twitter, it comes around, if a team comes and offers you a legit top 6 scoring forward or a top 3 scoring forward for Arber Xhekaj, would you do that deal? And of course you would. You're not going to give up a 40-goal scorer to keep a second-pair defenseman, because even at his best, he's still only a second-pair defenseman, no matter what he brings to the game. But realistically speaking, there's no one going to offer you a first-line player for Arber Xhekaj.
No one's going to be offering Connor McDavid for Arber Xhekaj.
No, for Arber Xhekaj. That's not going to happen. No. And no one's going to offer you a guy who could become that for, just Arber Xhekaj straight up. So I think, we got to be realistic. And I'm sure teams out there are looking at Arber Xhekaj and do want him. But they're going to offer you something that's a comparable value. Yeah. And a comparable value forward is not what Montreal needs right now. We do need him from a defensive point of view. What he brings is something unique. But another middle 6 forward, who's like best case scenario, you're looking at an Alex Newhook type player. Well, we've got Alex Newhook, and we've got Kirby Dach, and we've got, Joshua Waugh, who could probably come up and play a similar type of game to that. We've got guys who fit that kind of middle 6 role. I'm not moving out Arber Xhekaj for another middle 6 forward. No. A top line forward, absolutely. I mean, you'd be foolish not to. So I think you need to be realistic in saying, well, I would never move Arber Xhekaj, but also be realistic in what teams are going to offer for him. you know. So at the end of the day, I think that he stays put unless, I mean, like I said, unless they get an offer they just really can't refuse for him.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, I get a kick out of it because every year, well, the past 2 years, okay, there's always been teams are interested in Arber Xhekaj. Of course they're interested in Arber Xhekaj. I don't know if you noticed, but you never hear teams are interested in Jordan Harris. Teams are interested in insert name here. You know what I'm saying though? Like, it's always Arber Xhekaj, and the reason why is because he's different. He's different, and teams want that. They see it. They need it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't see it happening, man. Pisses me off to think about it.
And like I said, Montreal does have a lot of interchangeable defensemen. You know, I think and we talked about like Caden Goulet, I think, separates himself. I think Reinbacher, Milieu, Hudson separate themselves because of their individual skill sets. But I still think that like a guy like Barron, Harris, Struble are all legitimate kind of middle pairing defensemen, which a lot of teams would covet. They do have value. But each of those players are very similar to one another. You know what I mean? So we could lose one of those players, even though they still have value, because, you know, it's not Chris Weidman we're talking about. No offense, Chris Weidman, but, you know, a player without a lot of trade value. These guys still are valuable players. It's just they're less valuable to the Montreal Canadiens right now because we have players who can do that. Just like middle six forwards, you know what I mean? So it's assets we have a surplus of that are still valuable that we can move out because you're not getting anything for nothing at the end of the day. And same reason that maybe Mike Matheson might be a little bit more available in the Montreal Canadiens, because we got players maybe who can't fill Mike Matheson's role today, but who could fill Mike Matheson's role in 2 years from now when Montreal is going to be competitive. I think Caden Goulet can move in to become a very similar player to what Mike Matheson offers right now. And, you know, so then there you go. And you still got to make room for some of these guys. So I think because we got so much of a surplus, we can move out valuable players, but we can't move out players that are unique in our organization that we need. And I think Arber Xhekaj fits that bill. Same reason you wouldn't move out Cole Caulfield. We don't have a lot of scoring wingers. You're not going to move out Nick Suzuki because we don't have a lot of, you know, top line centers. We only have one, or maybe Nick Suzuki doesn't even fit that bill. But you know what I mean. So you can't. We're not going to deal from a position of weakness. You deal from that position of strength. You
spoke about Caden Goulet there a little while back. I don't know if you've seen. He got player of the game, eh? Was that today or was that yesterday?
That was yesterday, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, I seen a little.
That was in the game against. Oh my goodness, who was it? Who were they playing? They blew like a 5-goal lead in the third period yesterday. You see that?
Man, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't watch a whole lot of World Championship. I don't watch a whole lot of that tournament.
I enjoy it. It's just like it's on in the middle of the day, which is a bit, you know, it's hard to kind of manage. Do have to work after the end of the day. But they were playing. In the game that he got player of the game, he had 2 assists or something like that. They were playing, just give me 1 second, Austria. Beating Austria 6-1 going into the third period. And ended up beating them 7-6 in overtime.
Oh my God! What kind of collapse is that?
It could have been one of the most. If they had to lose that game, it would have been one of the most epic collapses of all time.
And John Tavares is on that team.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been one of his worst epic collapses, but Team Canada would have been.
Oh man!
And Jordan Bennington in it for Team Canada.
Bennington.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm surprised he didn't try and fight someone. No man, I don't watch a whole lot of that. I don't know why.
6 goals on 21 shots.
Wow. Wow, that's
6
pretty
goals
bad.
on 9 shots in the third period.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was rough.
I'd say, man.
Yeah. But hey,
that's pretty bad.
Yeah, this is not good.
Slavkovsky's having a pretty good time.
He is. 4 games, 4 points. He's looked really good. He's using his size. He's being dominant. You see him like go nose to nose with Shane Pinto there the other day. He was just like,
yeah,
you need to turn around. And
yeah, man.
Right off.
Yeah, he looked like a bouncer.
He did.
Off the chain locker.
Never messed with the bouncers at chain locker.
Oh man, he looked pretty good though. I mean, it's kind of funny too because the only the only 2 periods of hockey that I watched during the World Championships were Slovakia games. I didn't watch any Canada. I just watched Slovakia because I miss watching Slavkovsky play.
And we'll think too is Canada. Like there's not really. They played Austria. Now, I mean, that ended up being a close game, but it shouldn't have been. Oh. Their division is pretty weak. It was a weird one. Like they played Denmark because Germany played really well last year and kind of made it to the divisions are all messed up, because they get separated into pools based on where they finished the year before. So you got like the Germans end up being with the Americans, and the Finns and the Swedes are all in one division, I think, this year. Like Canada played Great Britain the other day.
Great Britain?
Great Britain, yeah. Now they only bet them 4-2. Like they're not exactly looking like an offensive juggernaut. I'll be honest with you. The game against Great Britain, I think they were tied going into the third period.
Wait until they play Iraq. Yes. Iraq's gonna shut them out. 5 shots, 5 goals.
Tied going into the second period. I'll tell you, man. Now that we talked about the World Championships, I mean, another guy who's been lighting up at the World Championships, and who we talked about on this channel, a bunch of times before, but Arber Xhekaj is having a fantastic tournament. He's putting up, I think he's got like 5 or 6 goals through 3 games for Finland, and playing up in their top line and just looking really, really good. And had a great playoff this year, and I think he plays in Liga. Fantastic playoff with his team there. Had a decent year. But another guy, man, he signed to play in the Swedish league next year. But if he signs his entry-level contract, he could come over, and if he makes the Canadiens, he can stay and play for the Montreal Canadiens next year. If he doesn't make the NHL team, he has to go back to his contract over in Sweden. So another kid we could see and who could make a difference.
He might just make it. Like he's got my mind blown. Grant McKegg, man, is turning into Grant Stradamus or something. Like I don't know what it is, but like I wasn't expecting him to come over and do that good. Well, I can't say come over and do that. I wasn't expecting him to do that well at the World Championships. Jeez, he put up a lot of goals, man. He's putting up a lot of goals, and he's scoring all kinds of them too in front of the net, getting nice tips in. Jeez, what kind of player do we have in this guy? Like,
I don't know. And he's always played good, like internationally. Whenever he's played World Juniors, he played for Finland a couple of years, and he's been consistently one of their better players. So, I mean, like I said, we've been kind of one of those players where he's over in Europe. We don't get to see a lot of him. You kind of get flashes of him at these international tournaments and whatnot. But I think we got a player in him for sure. Like, I think he's an NHLer guaranteed. It's just a matter of where he kind of finds that role. And very kind of similar type of situation to, Jesse Ylonen, which, I mean, obviously didn't really pan out, or maybe it will, I don't know, but same thing, like, decent production, shows up in the World Championships, World Juniors, plays for his country, but does it translate, and how is it going to look when he comes over to North America and starts playing? So he's an interesting prospect to follow, and regardless, it's nice to see any Montreal Canadian prospect have success on the international stage and really kind of bring attention to himself, and Kapanen is definitely doing that. Another guy this is kind of, we're kind of going back and forth here, but when we talk about the draft and at 5 or whatever, a name that I thought at the beginning of the season when we were talking about the draft and the possibility of Montreal picking, in this range where they ended up picking, Yzerman's name was a name that was always mentioned. And he's fallen off considerably on almost every list there is. There's question marks about his compete. There's question marks about a bunch of different things. He broke Cole Caulfield's record for the most goals in a single season in the United States Development Program at the World Under-18s this year. So obviously the kid can put the puck in the net. I think he's 6 feet tall, so he's not a big kid, but compared to where Cole Caulfield was and the justification for him sliding down to 15 where we ended up picking him up, he's a big guy compared to Caulfield. So I'm surprised that he's slipped so far. I mean, I won't say most people, a lot of lists, he's outside the top 10. I mean, this is a prolific junior goal scorer, and he could slide, and he could slide way down. And I think that's really interesting.
It is, man. And like, back in September, if somebody would have told you this, like, you would have been like, yeah, right, he's going top 10 or whatever. But you don't really know now. You don't know with Yzerman.
No,
and you know what scares me the most?
Yeah.
I keep seeing comparisons of Mike Hoffman. That's terrifying. Have you
Mike
seen
Hoffman
that?
Wasn't always terrifying. Yeah,
no, man.
But
I don't know why they're comparing him to him. Like, jeez.
I think it's the inconsistency with Yzerman is the issue. It's just, play away from the puck, commitment to defensive play, and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, the kid can put the puck in the net, I saw him... Canada played the U.S. at the U18s, and I actually watched the championship game, and I thought he was one of the better players for the Americans in that game. I can't speak to the tournament because I didn't watch a lot of it, but he hammered one home early against Team Canada on a cross ice pass, and it looked beautiful. Excellent timing, excellent technique, and really, I don't know if you watched it or not, but the Americans dominated Team Canada until the Americans end up taking a 5-minute major penalty for cross-checking, I believe, or head contact, and kind of turned them into the game. I think Canada scored 3 goals on the power play and took control. But before that, the Americans were all over them. So it was an interesting game. And like I said, Yzerman, I thought, showed up as good as anybody.
So would you be pissed off if the Habs took him at 5, given what you know now?
No. I mean, what we said over and over and over again, what do Montreal need more than they need anything else? They need goal scoring. They need goal scoring. Now, I mean, if a guy like a Ginla or like somebody else goes on and has a better career, obviously after the fact, I think we're going to be disappointed. But when you look at Caulfield when they took him at 15, you were just like, he was there. And it was still like, oh, should we take, because Newhook was right behind him. He went to Colorado right after that. There was a couple players there. But it was like, this kid can score goals. He broke records. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Are we going to let him slide? And I think it might not be Montreal at 5, but someone along the way is going to take the jump and take the risk on Yzerman. And I just got this feeling, man, that he is going to reward that team. I really do. I think it's going to be like, I remember Josh Wawa in his draft year. His stock just plummeted because of attitude issues, because of this, because of that. And now he didn't have the ceiling, obviously, Yzerman had, but he completely turned it around right after that. And I got this feeling about Yzerman that he's going to do the same thing. Like, he's just going to surprise people next year. And some team is going to be lucky that they took him.
Will be pretty cool, man. And who knows, maybe that's the guy the Habs end up taking. You never know.
I mean, right now I think he'd be a reach at 5. But if they did take him, I'd be like, that's a big, bold statement. And I mean, Hughes with the United States Development Program, he's all over that.
If I was given a choice, though, between Yzerman and a Ginla right now, I'd probably still go a Ginla.
I would too.
Yeah.
Like I said, if Deminoff and Lindstrom are off the board, a Ginla would be my next happy pick, like the one where I'm like, yeah, that's who I wanted them to take. I mean, if they took somebody else, I'd be open to it. But for me, he would be my pick. But I think Yzerman is... And the funny thing is like, all right, Montreal picks... That Winnipeg pick could be as high as, 24, 25? Chances are it won't be, but it could be as low as 27. You package up one of your defensemen, with that pick. If you can move up, if he's available in the mid-teens, and you move up and pull the trigger on that, and take a Ginla... I mean, because that could happen. I mean, there's lots of boards where he slides.
I'd be excited.
And then you got guys who were drafted or were ranked lower who are moving up the board, like Hellenius, like Senek. Lots of kids who are very much lower than Yzerman on these lists are moving up, and then a lot of really good defensemen. Maybe not in the top 5 they're going to go, although I think a couple will, but the top 10 is full of defensemen. So you got to look at it and say, this kid, how low is he going to go? And at which point do you say, all right, I'm going to package up, player A, player B, and this pick, and move up and take a swing at this kid. Because goal scoring is what we need, and he did it better than anyone has done it in that program ever. So, I mean, that's amazing.
I'd be really excited to see the Canadiens turn that Winnipeg pick into like a pick in the mid-teens. That would be wicked, and then double up on some pretty good first round picks.
Absolutely. To me, I think they either move up with it, I mean, who knows? Who knows what Kent Hughes is going to do? But to me, they either move up with it or they package it up with maybe a next year's pick and a defenseman and make a significant move for a top offensive player. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Playoffs, Garry. Only a few teams remain. We only got a few teams to go, man. Florida, Boston, Carolina's still in it. Barely. Against New York. Boston's in a bit of a tough spot right now. But they got some momentum now going into Game 6.
Boston forgot how to shoot the puck, man.
They did, yeah. That was weird. And then they came out in Game 5 and just started ripping it. And look what happened. It worked. Because Bobrovsky looked shaky during this series to me, right?
Off and on, yep.
Yeah, man. So Edmonton's still in it. Vancouver's still in it. Colorado and Dallas are playing right now. It's a tie game, midway through. Who do you like? Who do you see coming out of this?
Well, I think I like New York out of the East. I think as far as like well-rounded teams, good goaltending, good mix of vets and young players, good mix of defense. They can kind of play any way you want to play. I think New York is probably one of the best teams in the East right now, and they're probably playing the other best team in the East right now, which is Carolina, who I think maybe dug themselves a hole that I don't know that they can get out of. I think Carolina probably for like offensive depth, like maybe not superstar talent, but offensive depth where they can kind of hit you with line after line and really come at you, which is the way they play you. I think they're an excellent hockey team, but I think New York's probably got them on an overall roster construction. Goaltending is, I think they win that battle. On defense, I think Carolina probably plays better team defense, but the Rangers have got more talent on their back end, so it's going to be interesting there. I think out of the East, out of the West, Vancouver looks really good, man. They look really good. If they can get Demko back, I think they're going to be hard to beat. That's who I like. But at the end of the day, I'd be hard to bet against Dallas, the way they're playing with Jake Oettinger in net right now. I think they're rolling. And I wouldn't be surprised they take out Colorado. And then the winner of that Edmonton and Vancouver series is going to be in tough against them, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to go against you in the East. I'm going to say, I'm thinking that Florida is going to come out on top of everyone. They're going to triumph. I think they're going to rip New York or Carolina to shreds. Like it's going to be that intense, man. I'm hoping that it's going to be New York because
I think it will be.
That's going to be a wicked series, man. Just think about it. Jacob Trouba, Rampage in there, and then all of a sudden you got just a team full of rats in Florida. But I'm telling you, man, those rats over in Florida are like no rats I've ever seen. They're like the ones down Cape, man. They're crazy.
Dump rats.
They're dump rats. Yeah, they're gonna go pretty far, man. I could see him taking the cup. I'm not even kidding. Like I could see it. All depends on Bobrovsky. That's the only question mark because some games he's lights out, and in some games he looks like he's half in the bag. 12 o'clock on a Saturday. You know what I mean? Like I don't get it. But if he can stay in. If he can stay like playing good, I feel like they're going to take it off. And in the West, oh man, yeah, with Demko out of the equation, it just I want to see Edmonton or Vancouver. I want to see one of them go to the finals, but I just can't see it happening, and it's because of goaltending.
On both sides, because of goaltending, isn't it? Yeah. Man, the fact that Edmonton is going into these playoffs with Picard and Skinner in net is a travesty. It really is. I mean, you got two of the best. How did that happen? Two of the best. It's like it's the polar opposite of the Montreal Canadiens in the Carey Price era. You know, you got two of the best offensive players in the world, and you can't get them a goaltender who can put up a plus 900 save percentage in like 3 playoff years in a row.
Yeah, it's sick.
And then you had Montreal Carey Price in net for years and didn't give him one 40-goal scorer.
Yeah,
it got to be frustrating for those guys.
Doesn't make any sense. I'm really surprised by how well Dallas is playing against Colorado. I mean, I thought that was going to be a tough match, like a more tough matchup for Dallas. I thought that was where they were going to like shit the bed kind of. But
And I think it is a tough matchup for Dallas. But I think just like we don't see it enough for a lot of Dallas. We don't watch them play recently in the playoffs. It's goaltending. Obviously, Ottinger, he makes the saves when he needs them. But then they're getting, they're getting star performances from players. Like they're getting Wyatt Johnson just playing fantastic. You know what I mean? Playing like an elite forward. Whether he continues to play that way for the rest of his career, who knows? But they're getting that right now, and they got Robinson there, so they've got a good mix and solid on the back end. Another team that can kind of play you a bit rough too if you need to play that way. So I think Dallas is going to be tough. I mean, obviously, outside of the Toronto Maple Leafs, a Canadian team winning the Cup would be. I mean, that's my bread and butter. So Edmonton or Vancouver comes out of that. I'm pleasantly surprised with the way Vancouver's played overall. We talked about them towards the end of the season. So to me, I think that Vancouver, especially if Demko comes back later in the series or into the next round, they've got the better chance of going deep. I just can't see Edmonton, no matter how much firepower they got there, with that goaltending going very far, which is sad. But I mean, that's just the way I see it right now, and haven't really seen anything through the first two rounds to kind of change my mind on that. The Florida thing, I will say this, is that I don't think Florida's really been tested. You got, Tampa Bay limped into the playoffs. They're kind of a shadow of the team that they were. Didn't put up much of a fight to Florida. Don't play that rough, tumble game. I mean, look at the way Boston played Toronto over after Game 5. I mean, they went Game 5 and 6, maybe even Game 7. They have like 5 shots in the first periods of 3 of those games. The last 2 games against Boston, against Florida that they played, they had friggin' like 5-6 shots in the first period, like just abysmal performances. So, I mean, I don't think Florida's really been tested. So I think they do look kind of they look a bit like a unit right now. But compared to the teams that the Rangers have gone up against, I don't think they've really been tested that much. So I don't think Florida beats New York in the next round.
Got no faith in them, eh?
I got no faith.
You know who you should have faith in, though? Turkey Lehkonen. Yep. No, man. Turkey Lehkonen scored again tonight, and I just brought up his numbers because I was curious here. I want to end off on a positive Lehkonen note. I always wanted to do this. He's got 6 goals and 4 assists in 9 games in the playoffs, man. This guy is a playoff monster, eh?
A lot of people look at the Lehkonen trade as Ken Hughes' only bad move to date. And I don't know, man. I don't know that he didn't really fit our timeline in Montreal. I don't think that Ken Hughes can do no wrong. But the deal moving him out of town, even though he's been a good player and I really like him, I still don't have any problem with that deal. You know what I mean?
No, I feel the same way. I've said it before. I got no issues with that deal. Even if Barron gets traded, it doesn't even bother me.
No, and like I said, I like Lehkonen. I still like Lehkonen, and one of the few players that Montreal moves on from, and I 100% wish him well. Like to see him doing well, but yep. I'm not sorry that he's not a Montreal Canadian right now. Oddly enough, man, Nichushkin, hey, did you heard the news on Valeri Nichushkin? That's
a massive blow.
Isn't that crazy, man? And I think he's entered into stage 3 of the NHLPA recovery program, which means that he already failed stage 1 and 2 of the program in order to kind of go on.
How many stages in there? How many stages is there?
I think there's 5, or there's at least 4 for sure. So the first one, I don't think there's any suspension, but you have to go into the program. Then if you fail, if you reoffend, I guess, you end up in stage 2, which is where you're suspended without pay until you're finished the program. Then you can re-enter into playing again. And then if you offend again, then you're in stage 3, where you have to go into the assistant program and you're suspended for 6 months. So it's not just a one-time thing for him. But what a blow. And it's sad, man. I mean, whatever.
That is shitty.
Being a bad, bad teammate, bad person, whatever. But obviously at that point, it's a serious addiction this guy's got. And to whatever's going on with him. So I mean, that's sad. Sad when it kind of steals your life away like that. And it's happened to people of a lot, obviously a lot lower profile all the time. So it just kind of what happens to someone like this. It makes it a little bit more real.
Hopefully he turns it around, man.
Absolutely.
Hopefully he gets a handle on it and turns it around with the right support.
It's just a huge waste of talent and potential, right? So it's it's sad, man.
Yeah, no.
And a huge blow to the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, definitely huge blow for them. I got a bear bit of the week for you.
Shoot.
This one might last a little while, but that's why we're going big on this one.
Said.
Going big or going home. That's what she said, yeah. All right. I'm going to say that the Florida Panthers come out on top in the East. I'm going to say they're just going to steamroll whoever's next after they put out the Boston Bruins.
All right, so you're betting Florida makes it to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, Dolls and Bear.
Done.
Done. Dia.
Done.
And this is going to be the easiest case I've ever taken from you. Look at me.
I'm coming back, baby.
Throwing remarks at you right away.
It's going to be my redemption story.
Nah, I don't see it. I don't see
my asshole. I can't see it.
Oh, man.
All right, everyone. From GK and Hockey Junkie.
Well, see you next time.